Okay guys, so this is part 1 of my last video on YouTube. All parts are gonna be in the single solitary video itself. And for this question is, how do we take on the establishment? How do we get them to stop torturing us like they're doing right now? How do we get them to stop with every horrible thing that they're ever gonna do? Alright, here's the question, alright? Do you want them to know that they're powerful? Do you want them to be under the impression that they're powerful in any way? Here's the thing. The establishment, they want you to know that they're powerful when they're under the impression that they are. They want to be under that impression. If they're not under that impression, it wouldn't have been so pronounced, okay, if they were not under this impression. But the more they're under this impression, the more what should I put it? The more emboldened they get into wanting to achieve these kinds of things. The more they feel emboldened to start doing horrible shit to us. The thing is, the establishment, if you really want to get them to stop with all their bullshit, you gotta make sure that they're not under the impression that they're powerful, okay? If they're not under the impression that they're powerful, they would not have any incentive to do something like this. They'll be too afraid to do it. If you refuse to acknowledge that they're powerful, chances are they wouldn't feel so emboldened with what they're going to do. That's the thing. And because they feel so emboldened right now, because they're under the impression that they are so powerful with what they do and how they can influence everything, the thing is, you're supposed to respond by counteracting their impressions, counteracting their arguments, doing everything they can, everything you could, to make sure they're not under the impression. When they're not under the impression, they're not going to take it that easy anymore. They're going to think it's too much of a risk to do it. If you just accept the fact that they're powerful, they're completely emboldened into ruining people's lives and making everything into a shell. They want to bring this new world order, which is basically a post-democratic world. That's what they want to achieve. A post-democratic world. That's what they really want to achieve, where everyone is locked down, or any other thing, like paying amped up to the grams number, beyond grams number. If they are under the impression that they're powerful, that's what they're going to do. The more powerful that they're under the impression that they are, the worse it's going to get. If you suddenly reject their statement on how powerful they are, they try to prove that they're powerful so they can get away with all that shit. But the thing is, if you really want to take on the establishment, you gotta make sure that they know that they're not as powerful as they think them out to be. You should refuse to accept the fact that they're powerful in the first place. Refuse to acknowledge that they're powerful in the first place. And you gotta find a way to do that, okay? Here's the thing. Soundly reject every single statement, every single impression that they are. Try to treat this like an illusion. Treat it as something where they're not powerful at all, and that you do your own thing. The more you investigate into what they're doing, the more that they get caught and get debunked with all this, the less powerful they're going to feel. We're going to a point now where we gotta get them on their knees. So, here's the thing. Like, let me read a line from 1 John 4:4. Little children, you are from God, and have overcome them. For he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. Now think to yourself, who's more powerful, God or the satanic establishment? When you fear the establishment, it's only going to make them stronger. Now you see this girl from Hikari Wo, like that one, also known as English, called the light, this girl, which you have seen in another one of my videos, she looks kind of intimidating, yeah, but she is drawn very, very, very well. Seems like a good drawing of an opponent, don't you say? Alright, now we're in the second part of my last YouTube video. And as we all know about this, the thing is, just when we think that all this is gonna be over, something horrible happens and then everything gets worse. Like, do you remember in 2019, you're under the impression that you think, oh, it's over. The world seems to be recovering. And then the coronavirus pandemic happened and then they decide to exploit it and take advantage of it. Do you remember that? Because the thing is, the establishment refuses to lose. But the thing is, the real question that we're trying to answer is, how can we stay optimistic about the future? Well, the future for the short scale seems to be quite grim, and it seems to go from that to the long scale too. However, the thing is there really a light at the end of the tunnel? The thing is, we're in this spiritual battle, okay? You gotta understand that this is a spiritual battle, alright? Let me put it to you this way. Something that happened 4,263 years ago, around that time. And you would have heard that story in Genesis. That is the Tower of Babel. What is the Tower of Babel? Well, a Tower of Babel is this giant tower in Babylon, and it was a post-flood rebellion against God. And who are the ones doing that? Noah's descendants, of course. How did God respond? By dividing every single groups of people and have them lost in translation. So the matter really is, God really knows all this. He's not oblivious to anything that we're going on here. He isn't dead, he is still, well, alive. Here's another thing. Revelations, the rapture. Those who have faith in Christ will be saved by God and Christ. So in this situation, you would never want to be left behind, because that would be one of the worst things that could ever happen to someone. And that would be astronomically scary. Those who are saved by God will be able to enjoy heaven for the rest of eternity. Those left behind will be completely disconnected from God. And if you're worrying that that may not happen in quite a while, which it could happen at any time, let me put it to you this way. How often does the establishment get debunked? How often does the support for the establishment diminish over time? You can hear what people have been saying 2, 3, 4, many years ago. People telling that they used to be part of the establishment, that they used to be part of the support for the establishment, but then are turned away by it. And they mention that the amount of support for the opposition to the establishment is astonishing. Like, every YouTube video, almost every YouTube video made by the establishment, if it's discovered by the opposition, of course it's going to get more dislikes than likes. I also have to mention the protests against lockdowns in lockdown-heavy areas is astonishing too. They even say that they're going to plan a revolution. However, keep in mind, this is going to be a very, very, very wild ride. And if you could handle that very harsh ride, chances are you're going to make it out of this hell. In the meantime, you can try to take a break from all this. Absorb something more dreamlike. No Miyako, that's a perfect game. And of course, you'd see why. The aesthetic's really good, and so is the atmosphere. Also known in English as Eternal City, with well-drawn characters. And isn't it the point with many perfect stuff like no Miyako? to offer an escape to all this ordeal of this harsh world that we live in right now, to keep ourselves occupied. Alright, now we're on to part 3, and this goes by the question, is YouTube gonna shut down anytime soon? Short answer, I would say most likely. A long answer, here's the thing. Actually try to shut down YouTube. And of course, although it's not as hard as trying to figure out Graham's number, I feel like it's harder than manned missions to Mars. So I took it one step further and hired more people to shut it down, which raised a lot of concerns. I noticed that this process would hurt a whole range of people. So in the end, it would end up rather more hurtful than helpful. Because so many people depend on YouTube for money, even though they're not getting as much money anymore. Not everybody is quite ready to leave it all behind. So I really had to postpone this. However, I mentioned that a small bug could really obliterate YouTube from the inside out. Another thing I mentioned is that YouTube could be shut down due to a lack of money used to support the site, and YouTube seems to lose a lot of money. So the real thing is, it's only a matter of time, really. Even though many people would doubt this, you might be surprised. Now let me tell you about something that you would all know of. A Rubik's Cube. Around 1980, a Rubik's Cube would be this new, cool, perplexing thing. Nowadays, in order to solve a Rubik's Cube, you can just find a tutorial on the algorithms you need to use to solve the Rubik's Cube. But back then, nobody really knows what these algorithms really were, so it seems astronomically hard. However, many people with so many times on their hands, thinking, what can I do to solve this Rubik's Cube? So they figure out the algorithms, and soon enough, more and more people know how to solve it. The response to this is even a bigger Rubik's Cube, a 4x4, which they thought was impossible. But then again, more people figured out the algorithms, and then they know how to solve it with ease. And it's the same with every cube, bigger cube, going forward and forward after that. And that's what shutting down YouTube is kind of like. It's strategic. And so is the Rubik's Cube. It's perplexing. You want to know what also perplexes me? Not very many people know about this perfect game, known as Tenchi no Hohoemi, also known in English as Angel's Smile. With graphics that really look good for its time. I mean, really. Even masses, the corporation behind making this game, don't even bring it up anymore. So this thing is really, really probably some sort of collector's item. I don't know how rare it is, but it is really, really, really obscure. And now on to the final part, my final farewell to this god-awful, wretched, just, oh my god, do I even need to explain it anymore? This site is just so fucking awful. YouTube is just so fucking awful. It ran its course. I mean, back in the day, YouTube was amazing, but now it's absolute dog shit, and you'll find, if you've never been on YouTube for a while, you'd probably be shocked on how horrible this piece of shit site really is. The thing is, they made it clear they would not leave me alone. I made it the verdict that this is literally one of the worst sites I've ever been on. And I don't want anything to do with this piece of shit website anymore. I'm done. I am fucking done with this horrible website. This website can go eat a dick. It really is that horrible. And I'm never gonna upload any video on YouTube ever again. So what is this? Either you're watching it on an alternative earlier than August 21st, 2021, or you're watching it on YouTube on August 21st, 2021, when the total solar eclipse was 4 years ago. The thing is, YouTube really got horrible after